Hello everyone, welcome to Zooming in China. I'm Simone Gao. The Biden administration has predicted that science, not intelligence, would be the key to discovering the origin of the COVID-19. What does that mean? The CCP influenced the WHO's first COVID origin report and claimed that the virus came from America's biological weapons program. However, the CCP is extremely afraid of one thing. What is it? Here's part 2 of my discussion with Dr. Shang Lin, former lab director of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. It's very interesting you said that because as we mentioned before, you said the evidence should come from intelligence, but the Biden administration said because we lack of enough evidence from the intelligence community, and we are not likely to obtain more evidence from the intelligence community, we have to decide on science to figure out whether this is lab-made or from nature.
Well, I think it's actually self-conflicting because if it is a scientific investigation, why would you give a 90 days deadline for this kind of scientific research, right? If it's a scientific issues, it take decades for people to figure out where the virus originated. And it probably will involve collecting sample even in the wider scales. More scientific community need to be engaged in it. And there could be a lot of hypotheses, a lot of testing on different potentials in terms of scientific investigation. But for intelligence, regarding about the origin of outbreak is a different issue. And even satellite images can give you a lot of clue, right? Even insiders can give you a direct evidence. And so I think the 90 days deadline only makes sense that it is the intelligence probe, not the scientific probing. So that's why I think these CNN reports actually probably finding excuses for the administration to not release the report in a timely manner as originally planned.
You think it's not going to be released on August 26th?
It's likely. It's likely. And if it did release, maybe they are not making any conclusive statements regarding the outcome of the investigation. And I saw the news that the administration rejected the Republicans' request for the intelligence community to release more information regarding the virus origins. So I hope they can reconsider that.
Right. That's another big question because the Biden administration said we don't have enough intelligence evidence to tell the origin of the virus. But on the other hand, the Republican side said, from the intelligence community's evidence, we have already concluded this is very likely from a gain-of-function experiment that leaked from the lab, as said by former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. When I interviewed him, he said this to me as well. So, what is your take on this? Does the intelligence community have enough evidence, you think, that will give us a pretty good idea where that virus come from?
Well, I believe that the intelligence community in the United States have collected ample evidence, even though they are circumstantial, but there are ample evidence suggesting there was a potential leak from Wuhan Institute of Virology in probably September 2019, right? So from the report from the China Task Force in the United States Congress, we can see indirect circumstantial evidence and probably more information. That's why the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, told the media that he believed United States intelligence have ample evidence, to make a conclusion. But at the same time, I also believe they are all circumstantial right now, and so. But I don't think the current administration have a strong determination in bring out the results to the public. Even in the CNN report, when they talk about the team of investigation, still short of manpower. They are missing people who are understanding Chinese and also experts in virology fields. And I think actually there's more like excuses because even in a research institute that I worked before, it's unit under the DoD. We have a pipeline to analyze large quantity of data. We can analyze tens of thousands of virus samples, especially genome samples, very quickly, and especially you are very clear what you want to looking for, right? Even there are more than 22,000 genome sequencing data. You can set up the parameter. You can quickly identify how many samples are coronavirus, how many samples are bad coronavirus, any of them having very interesting, unique features in the spike proteins. All these can be done quickly. And there are other virologists who have clearance also can understand Mandarin as well. Even though there are not many, but you can identify these kind of experts. And as long as the team is open to these kind of collaborations, I think the result can be brought out very quickly. So and that's why I think the CNN reports pretty much just finding the excuse right now. And I'm worried that the administration don't have a real solid determination, want to reveal the result to the public. That's what I worry about.
Right, right. Why is that?
Because I think this is related to the current administration's foreign policy related to China, and especially they are not treating the Communist Party as rivals. They still want to collaborate with the Communist parties on certain aspects, just like climate changes, right? So if you want to collaborate, you have to give some rooms for the Communist parties and maybe have compromise for the Communist Party, and especially for the original outbreak issues. If the investigation showing the Chinese government is covering up the outbreak, covering up the potential lab leak. So of course, if that happens, Chinese government will be held accountable for what they did, the damage to the whole international community. So that would be a too huge a crime, and Chinese government don't want to see that. And the Biden administration may not want to get to that result if they still want a collaboration with communist regime in certain aspect. And that's why I'm worried about the results might not come in a timely manner.
I see, I see. Well, as you know, according to the person who broke the story of the alleged Chinese defector Dong Jingwei, according to him, Dong Jingwei also exposed a number of, I don't know how many, but a number of intelligence community members who are compromised by the CCP. I mean, there could be intelligence community members, or there could be politicians. Do you think that played a role as well, why this probe might not go very smoothly?
You brought out very, very critical information. And definitely Chinese government have been working on infiltration in the United States, political circle, academia circles, intelligence communities for a long time, for decades. And even nowadays, right, for example, in United States Congress, people be questioning about why Congressman Swalwell was still in a House Intelligence Committee, while the intelligence agencies are very clear that he has connection, has a relationship with a Chinese spy. And how could that be possible? And there was a saying in the town of Washington, D.C., saying that the town half was controlled by Saudi Arabia and half was controlled by the Communist Party, right? So that's maybe a little bit exaggeration, but it clearly tells you how powerful the China lobby works in Washington, D.C. And there are so many Chinese spies being sent out to the United States, and FBI Director Christopher last year and this year all mentioned that the FBI been working heavily on China spy cases. Every 10 hours they have a new case regarding Chinese spies. So there are so many Chinese spies in so many fields, and especially in biotechnology field. And so it's likely even many of the scientists working together with the Chinese government. They may be trained in the United States, and then they can bring the data back to China, or even still working with Chinese government agency while they're working with United States government research institute or academias. So there are all kinds of ways the Chinese government can steal the information from the United States, and with political influence, with political infiltration. So of course the Chinese government can mobilize these kind of forces to interfere with the investigation process and try to make Chinese government escape the international criticisms regarding their covering up of the outbreak.
Yeah. It's very interesting. The Biden administration has expressed the possibility of launching another investigation if this one proves inconclusive. But it is unclear whether a decision has been made or not. So, what is your take on this? Is it possible that they will do this all over again? And will the second one yield any groundbreaking conclusions?
I think another investigation will only serve for the Chinese Communist Party as additional procrastinating tools, because Chinese government definitely want the international society to be trapped into the scientific questioning of where the virus come from, right? Because it always takes decades to investigate how the virus originated, what will be the animal reservoirs, how many animals can be reservoirs, which one will be the intermediate animal reservoirs, and who are the patient zeros in different countries. These can be a lot of resource and time-consuming process, right? So Chinese government want it to be that way. And if Biden administration want to launch another investigation, Chinese government will be happy about it. And that also tells that the current administration are not confident in releasing a powerful report from these 90 days investigation, even though the intelligence community probably had a lot of very useful, very powerful information already. But if the administration don't have the, but if the leadership doesn't have the will and the determination to expose the CCP's crime, then everything can change.
So it's very worrisome, based on what you said, if the Biden administration insists on this scientific approach. This could be a non-ending game, forever going game to probe, to try to find the origin of the virus, which the CCP will be very happy about, right?
Definitely, CCP will set up this kind of trap for international society to investigate these origin of virus for decades. You can put a lot of resource, manpower on it without any clear results. And CCP knows that. That's why for nowadays, their political narratives is to shift the blame to United States, blaming United States military, blaming for Dietrich. They can play this game all day long. And they know the more they play in it, the more obscure the whole landscape is, right? And other international community, other countries may not be so sure what kind of information the U.S. got, and many countries may be wobbling in supporting additional investigation. So it's just make whole things more complicated, and CCP will be happy about it. And as long as they can procrastinate the whole process, it will serve the Communist Party very well. And at the same time, they can work more aggressively in developing more mutant virus, and Chinese government building more P3 P4 labs. And that's like building more Pandora box inside China. The Chinese government has ordered every province to build up more P3 and P4 lab. And you can see even for the top P4 lab in Wuhan Institute of Virology cannot guarantee their safety operations. And how could the Chinese government guarantee the safety of more P3 P4 lab in different provinces?
Yeah, that's just Incredible. That's scary.
Yes.
In your opinion, if the Chinese Communist Party would be happy about this scientific approach, probe about the virus origin, is there an area that the CCP would not be very happy about if the US goes on that route?
I think what is lethal to the Chinese Communist Party is to expose how did they cover the outbreak in Wuhan, why they did not let the whole international community know earlier that the disease is human transmissible, human-to-human transmission very efficiently, and also how the government blocked Wuhan people go to other cities in China while letting the Wuhan people potentially infectious to travel to other countries. This is like spreading a virus to the world intentionally. And so this is actually very, very powerful aspect that the international society need to take a strong stand to really criticize Chinese government on covering up the outbreak. And if the Chinese government can release the information much earlier, then the international society can have a lot of time to prepare, have good efforts in prevention to make these things turn into a pandemic. So the Chinese government definitely had this original thing to make the virus spread into the whole world. I think this is more detrimental than a local cluster outbreak, whether it's lab leak or not. Because lab leak, a local outbreak, it happens in other countries as well. As long as you deal in it properly, as long as you inform other counterparts in other countries in a timely manner, then other countries can take effective measures to protect themselves. And if you intentionally make it spread to the other world, then of course, it becomes very, very hard to handle it. And you see the virus has so many variants in other countries with poor public health infrastructures, right? So it becomes a nightmare for the whole world.
Yeah, I think that's why the Republicans report on, the Wuhan lab, the pandemic actually probably started before September 2019 is very important.
It's very, very important.
Yeah, because basically I think it's a manslaughter or premeditated murder kind of a comparison. If they really just got to know about this virus, the outbreak in late December, the end of December, and the start of December, and they only know that this is human transmissible on December 20th, then by January the virus has already spread to the world. It leaves them very few days to do the right thing. So maybe they just didn't know what to do. They had like a poor management skills and stuff like that. But if they knew in September, then it leaves them like 3-4 months to prepare, to think about what to deal with, how to deal with it. And if they still decided, the Wuhan people can travel to America but not to Beijing, that would be a problem, right? That would be a big problem.
It's a huge problem. Yeah, it's a huge problem. Even if Chinese government take strong measures in early January to block Wuhan people travel to other world, it can make a big difference. Right now, the virus has like its own experiment field in so many different continents to find more powerful variants, higher transmissibilities, maybe even higher pathogenicities. And so the virus has upper hand now. Once you spread the virus to global villages, it totally changed the game. Because if you look at the history of other disease outbreak, whether it's SARS, whether it's MERS, whether it's Zika virus, it all starts from one local region, right? Even the most dangerous Ebola, it starts from one local region. And it takes a while for the virus to adapt to the human community to further spread in the local before it can turn into a local endemic and then to a global pandemic. It takes a while. Even for the pandemic flu, it takes a while for it to spread globally. But this time, the virus the SARS-CoV-2 just quickly spread to so many different continents and then incubated in different continents. So of course, the human society become very, very challenging to deal with the virus, to defeat the virus. It just changed the game fundamentally. That's why I call it its original sin when the Chinese Communist Party spread the virus to the whole world.
Yeah, the cover-up is a premeditated murder, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I agree so.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Lin, these are all my questions. Do you have anything else to add?
I was just want to emphasizing that the whole world need to see clearly what CCP has done to the whole world, not to be trapped into a so-called scientific investigation of the origin of the virus. Need to keep in mind, we just talk about the origin of the outbreak, need to hold CCP accountable for what they cover up. That's my message. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lin.
Thank you.
That's it for today. As you know, we released a documentary movie on the Clink Network last week. It is part 2 of a documentary series called The American Dream Takes on China, Inc. that tells the story of former Undersecretary of State Keith Krach leading a group of Silicon Valley veterans beating the CCP in the economic battlefield. We first published it on our membership website. Now it's available on our YouTube channels, so be sure to check it out. And if you like our production, please sign up for our membership website or donate to us. Our website is zoomingin.tv. Thanks for watching. I'm Simone Gao, and I'll see you next time.